Hello, welcome to Elizabeth Reads. We are reading A Place Called Perfect, and we are on chapter 22, The Reimaginator. I think I have an idea, Violet said, placing down her cup. Oh no, not another one, Boy teased. Your last idea ended with the Watchers trying to kill us in the ghost estate. Ha ha, very funny, Boy. She turned to William, who was now lost in thought. If it's the tea that's making everyone blind, then we need to get rid of it. If the people in Perfect stop drinking the tea, then they'll be able to see again. Don't you think so, Mr. Archer? Mr. Archer? Oh, yes, sorry, Violet, what were you saying? The tea. If we get rid of the tea, then everyone will be able to see again. I'm not sure it's so simple, Violet. The glasses my brothers invented don't just alter the wearer's perception of the world around them. They're much cleverer than that. William cleared his throat. Have you ever noticed how the people of Perfect are very open to suggestion? Tell them the sky is falling and they'll believe you. That's because the glasses also suck out their imaginations. During the day, tiny metal pads on the earpiece attract the imagination like a magnet and store it. At least that's how they worked in my day. At night, the Watchers sneak into people's homes, put the glasses into a special machine called the Hollower, and pull out the stored imagination. Then the Watchers bring it back to my brother's shop for safekeeping. That's what we saw in the Archer's storeroom, Violet. All those jars of color, they must have been imaginations, Boy said, getting excited. But why? Violet asked William, ignoring Boy's enthusiasm. Oh, it's simple, really. People are much easier to control when they have no imagination. They don't ask questions, and they believe anything you tell them. The simple fact is, a human isn't much at all when they lack imagination. Why do they store the imaginations then? Why not just destroy them? Boy asked, a little confused. Fortunately, you can't destroy the imagination, Boy. William smiled. You can steal it and keep it hidden, but once it's freed and given a helping hand, it will always find its rightful owner. But what about me? Why didn't the glasses work on me? Violet asked. Why do I still have my imagination? Well, I'm not sure, Violet, William said thoughtfully. It happens sometimes. My brothers just can't control some people, no matter how hard they try. Violet was silent for a few minutes before she spoke again. Ma'am gave me yellow pills. They made me think strange for a while, not like myself. They said I had IDDCS, Irritable, Dysfunctional, Disobedient Child Syndrome. William laughed, almost choking on his tea. IDDCS? Well, that's original. They do crack me up, my brothers, sometimes. They're persistent, I'll give them that. I imagine those pills are accelerators used to loosen the imagination, making it easier to steal. If someone wasn't changing fast enough, my brothers would drop them a tablet to speed up the transition. It rarely works, though. If the glasses don't get you, not much else will. What happens if the glasses don't work and the pills don't work? Violet asked nervously. Well, then you end up here in no man's land. If my brothers can't steal your imagination, then they can't control you, and that doesn't make for a perfect society. I imagine, given a little more time, Violet, you would have been thrown in here too. Needless to say, they'd tell your family some story or other, and they'd simply accept it. Like Ma'am did with Dad, Violet said. The Archers told her he'd gone away on business, and she believed them. Dad would never have done that without telling us. Exactly, Violet. Your mother has become a perfect citizen, so to speak. But I still don't understand why it didn't work on me, she said again. Well, I believe some people just have too much. Too much what? Boy asked. Too much imagination. They either have vast stores or they can easily regenerate it if some is taken away. I'm not sure which. Most people just have a set amount that can be taken pretty quickly. They may produce tiny residual amounts every year thereafter, but it's nothing a quick top-up of the Hollower can't handle. The likes of you, Violet, are always producing more, no matter how much is stolen. You will always be an independent thinker. Bet I have more than you, Boy, Violet smiled. Yeah, you're a bit of a freak, he laughed. My studies have shown it could be genetic, William continued. You said your father was also taken to no man's land, Violet, which proves my point. No, I didn't, Violet replied, her voice breaking. The Archers have my dad. He's being kept in the ghost estate. We're trying to save him. Where? William asked. The ghost estate, Boy said, pointing in the general direction. The place across the river, over the old footbridge. I know where it is, William continued. I just wasn't sure I'd heard you right. It's haunted, Violet piped up. Oh, that nonsense, William laughed. I don't know who started those rumors, but I've heard them. I expect it saves the watchers patrolling the riverbank too often. No one's going to escape from no man's land into a haunted estate. I knew the developer of that place, Mr. Lashes. He was found dead out there years ago, before Perfect. Nobody ever discovered what happened to him. The builders abandoned the job, saying it was haunted, and that building next to an ancient graveyard brought bad luck. It was a tragic affair. He shook his head as he remembered. I don't believe in that rubbish. Anyway, isn't that place deserted? No, Boy said. It's full of watchers. What are watchers doing out there? William asked, confused. Are you sure they're not just guarding the riverbank so we don't escape? I'm sure. It's full of them, Boy told him. We were just there looking for Violet's dad. What is he doing there? William asked Violet. I don't really know, she shrugged, but I think it has something to do with his experiments. The Archers asked Dad to work for them after he won an award from I Spy magazine. He sounds like a clever man, William smiled. He is, Violet said proudly. The Archers said they needed him to research why people were going blind and fix it. We know now that was a lie, Boy snorted. When we arrived in Perfect, Violet continued, Dad started to act strange, but not in a perfect way like Ma'am. He was distracted and tired and hardly ever home. He seemed to work all the time. And then, one day, he just disappeared. The Archers told Ma'am he'd gone to an optician's conference, but I didn't believe them. That's why myself and Boy broke into the Archers' Emporium and— Aha! William smiled, shaking his head. Let me guess, you found the tunnel. I never thought of that. My brothers are clever. They could go in and out of that estate and nobody would ever know. How do you know about the tunnel? Boy asked. Ma'am used to own the Archers' Emporium. She sold all kinds of local crafts from there, but it always embarrassed my brothers. They never thought it was a real business. When the twins got older, she gave it to them to set up their opticians. The tunnel comes out in the old graveyard. Perfect's a medieval town. People reckon there are lots of tunnels like this one underneath the place, but I never could find another. Anyway, what are they doing with your dad out there? Growing eyes, Violet said. Growing what? William coughed, spitting out some of his tea. Eyes, Boy replied. They're growing eyes, just like this one. Boy pulled the half-dead plant from his pocket, dropping it in front of William. The thing wiggled and squirmed for a moment, and then a clump of congealed blood oozed out onto the table from its severed vein. The eye looked slowly from Violet to William, finally resting on Boy before it shuddered and died. William's face lost all color as he picked up a pencil and prodded the specimen. I can't believe— He stopped mid-sentence and rose quickly to peer out the window. You two, in the back, now, he commanded. Down that way there's a door. Go through it and wait until I come and get you. He was suddenly stiff and stern. What is it? What's wrong? Violet asked. The watchers. They're searching the street, probably looking for you two. I'll try to get rid of them. Violet and Boy did as they were told and slipped into the shadows. The place was dark and they had to put their arms out in front of them so as not to bump into anything. Boy hit the door first and grunted. Not a sound, William growled across the room. Searching in the darkness, Violet found the handle and turned it as quietly as she could. The pair slipped through the door, closing it gently behind them. They were standing in an extremely messy office. A single dirt-caked bulb clung to a wire in the middle of the ceiling, casting a faint yellow glow around the space. A table by the far wall overflowed with piles of notebooks and loose papers. A few sheets had fallen onto an old swivel chair below. The floor was covered in colored markers and pens that crunched under their feet. Violet tiptoed around the mess and had just picked up a notebook from the pile when Boy beckoned her over. Come here, he said. Listen. He had his ear to the door. She crept over carefully and took a spot next to him. They ran past half an hour ago, a voice barked. Well, as I said, I haven't seen them. I've been shut up in my office all night and I'm about to go to bed. Working on your experiments, I suppose, one of the watchers laughed. I gave that up years ago, boys, you know that. Happy to toe the line these days. That's what you say, all right. So you don't mind if we come in for a look then? Violet's eyes widened. Quickly the pair scurried around the room looking for somewhere to hide. In her haste, Violet tripped over a lump in the carpet. She bent down to inspect the threadbare rug. It was raised up as if something was underneath it. She pulled it back to reveal a trap door. A worn metal ring inset in the old wood was raised up slightly. She lifted it and pulled hard, her face turning red with the effort. Boy, quickly, she gasped. Within seconds, he was at her side and had yanked open the secret door. A rusted iron ladder reached up from the darkness below. Violet quickly descended. Boy followed, pushing down the metal ring and pulling the carpet back on top of the trapdoor before closing it silently above him. They held their breath as footsteps entered the room above. "Do you think they heard us?" Violet whispered. Boy shook his head. Something brushed Violet's ear, and she jumped, almost losing her grip on the ladder. A piece of cord swung silently beside her. She reached for it in the darkness and pulled. There was a faint click, a small sizzle, and suddenly the room lit up. They were perched halfway up a ladder in the middle of a deep cellar. The walls of the cellar were stone, and thick beams of dark brown wood intersected them, as if they were holding the room together. Thinner wooden beams striped the ceiling, and uneven stone slabs covered the ground. It was cold, and Violet's breath formed foggy clouds in front of her. They climbed down to the floor. Hundreds of sheets of paper plastered the walls, covered in drawings of glasses with arrows running from one picture to another as if piecing together a puzzle. Hand-scribbled notes patterned the drawings. It was clear William Archer had been experimenting with different ways to make his own glasses. All the notes were dated and were at least 10 years old. There were also lots of theories on the imagination worked out across the yellowing pages. One drawing titled "The Reimaginator" stood out. It showed a strange contraption made of mainly what looked like lots of bagpipes sticking out of the side of a central glass cabinet. "Violet," Boy whispered. Engrossed in the strange diagram, she ignored her friend. "Violet," he said, this time a little louder. Again she ignored him, busy with her reading. "Violet, you have to see this." "What, Boy?" she snapped, turning around. Violet gasped. Boy was standing in front of a worn wooden workbench. On top of the bench rested the actual Reimaginator. It seemed almost exactly the same as the drawing. It was about Boy's height and looked like a strange musical instrument. 8 gold pipes of various lengths rose up from the back of the machine like a church organ. Each pipe was connected to a separate brown leather bag at the bottom. The bags hung off the machine like giant lungs, 4 either side of a gold-framed glass cabinet that was the centerpiece of the Reimaginator. It was empty now, but the drawing showed it filled with colored gas. "What is it?" Boy whispered. "The Reimaginator," Violet slowly replied. "The what?" "It gives people back their imaginations," Violet said. There was a sudden shuffling noise above. Boy dived for the cord, and with a sharp click, the room plunged back into darkness. And that's the end of chapter 22. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.